Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by multi-award-winning artist and author, Morgan MCCarver. Morgan has a book coming out in January, so we're going to be talking to her about her book and also about her art, because that's something that everybody needs to know about and check out. So Morgan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And what a warm introduction. I really appreciate that. It's great to be here.
Well, why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So like you said, my name is Morgan MCCarver. I am a Carolina girl. I grew up in South Carolina and currently I live in North Carolina. And my love of art has always kind of existed in my life. When people ask, when did I start ceramics? I usually laugh and say it probably started when my grandmother would make homemade Play-Doh for me when she used to keep me way back when I was a toddler. So I've always had an interest in art and making things with my hands, doing different things, sewing, knitting. But I really didn't get into ceramics or pottery for like in a professional type sense until high school. And my story with that is not your typical art introduction. Basically, I had scoliosis and it was discovered, I was diagnosed when I was in 5th grade. And then by the time I was in 8th grade, I had worn a back brace the whole time. And the doctors said that the back brace wasn't really holding my spine where it needed to be. And my curve, for those who are unfamiliar with scoliosis, as I was growing, my spine was twisting like as an S shape, and then it was also rotating. And so my organs were being affected, and the doctor said, this is only going to get worse. So when I was in 8th grade, I underwent scoliosis spinal fusion surgery. And basically what that is 2 titanium rods and 18 screws are holding my spine straight. So the doctors went in, had a major surgery, infused my spine into a straight position. And so that fixed all of the problems for the scoliosis, but it really limited my activity because I had a year-long recovery process. And so at the time, my creative outlet was dancing. I loved Irish step dancing, and I was competitive in that sport. And I really, that was my passion. And it, in a way, was taken away from me because I couldn't do it for a year during recovery. I wasn't supposed to jump like that or stretch or do anything that could prevent the healing process. And I was just not doing well without a creative outlet. And so at that point, my mom signed me up for just your stereotypical kids pottery camp. And I really fell in love with it. I just couldn't get enough. I enjoyed just working with that medium. Clay is so flexible and so malleable, and being able to really work with that hands-on experience, it was just amazing. And then from there, I just kept taking classes in high school and decided that this passion was not just a hobby for me. And I went to school for it, actually, and got a degree from Anderson University in South Carolina. It's the South Carolina School of the Arts, and the program is amazing. So I have a Bachelor's of Arts in Ceramics. And from there on, it just keeps continuing. I ended up moving to Asheville, North Carolina, and I work out of a studio with some really amazing potters here. And it's a great community, and I'm still doing my thing in the art world, and I just love it.
Well, talk about how your ceramic business led you to writing a book, because you got a book coming out here pretty soon.
I do, yes. It releases with Morgan James Publishing January 9th of 2024. And that's a traditional publisher. People say, Morgan James, your name is Morgan. Is that self-published? I said, no. They were just so gracious to accept my book. But how my story kind of involves the book is I was at Anderson University, and it is a Christian university, and I'm a Christian, and I just really started realizing through professors and different things I was doing how many references in the Bible there are about clay. And I thought there has to be some kind of book about this, or some kind of devotional I can do, or a study, something that involves the Christian experience and the Christian's relationship with God to the ceramic experience and the potter's relationship with the clay. And I really couldn't find what I was looking for. And so I thought, hey, this could be something I could do. And so this was back in 2019. I started kind of taking notes and getting things together. And at that point, I had never read through the Bible all the way from Genesis to Revelation. And so I really made that my mission, to just read through the Bible, find all of the references I could, and really know my stuff, know what everything was talking about. And at roughly in the later months of 2019, I had the ideas, I had things written down. I was looking for publishers at that time, and no one was really interested. I had one company say, yeah, you could publish with us, but we're going to need to have a ghostwriter come in and pretty much rewrite everything. We're going to need you to elaborate. We need you to pay for people to make this what it needs to be. And I prayed about it a lot, and I felt that the Lord was telling me, like, this is just not your time. You don't have enough experience to get this book published. And I really put it on hold. And I thought that that meant for decades, for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, revisit this after I've retired, after I've gotten married, had kids, and they've grown, this would be like a memoir type thing. And in that process, I ended up getting a job at a ceramic supply store, and I taught private lessons. And so I was learning as I was teaching, and I was working with different clays and experimenting and learning from my students just as much as they were learning from me. That's the great thing about teaching. You, especially with clay, you really sometimes have no idea, what do these two glazes do when they mix together? I don't know. Let's try it and find out. And those of you who are ceramic artists or have taken a pottery class, things don't always go as planned. I always say red and blue don't make purple in the ceramics world, because glaze colors and chemistry, when you mix them together and then you throw them in a kiln to 2000 degrees or hotter, you have no idea what's going to happen. And so learning from that was great. And then the pandemic hit, and I really needed to focus on my own art. And so that's kind of when I moved up to North Carolina, and I apprenticed under a potter here and learned so much from her. And I was just gaining all of this experience that I loved learning. And I knew at the time I was gaining experience, but I didn't really understand how much until about January of this year, 2023. I felt the Holy Spirit calling me, saying, remember that book? Yeah, I think it's time to revisit that again. I was like, really? It's been such a short time. But I was so excited. And so I rewrote the entire thing. And at that point, I was really just relying on God. I said, I've tried this once. I have tried to publish this book in 2019, and it went nowhere. And in fact, they wanted me to pay all this money to self-publish. And that's just, not my vision. And so, Lord, if you're really telling me to write this book, then this is completely yours. I give this entire project to you. And if it's going to go anywhere, it's going to be because of you. I don't know anything about publishing processes or the book writing process or anything like that. So if you are really calling me to do this thing, and I believe that he was, then I need you to take it from me and just let your will be done with it. And so at that point, there were some guidelines that I felt he was calling me to use. And so I was really trying to honor him through the whole process. And I was looking for publishers, and Morgan James Publishing, they were referred to me by another company. And I worked with Terry Wallen, and he was just amazing. He said, it wasn't an immediate no, and that's what I really appreciated. He said, your manuscript is too short, but if you can lengthen it by a third, I'll look into it. And so I did. I took about a week and a half and made it the desired length. I think I actually doubled the word count and gave it back to him. And he was so encouraging. And he said, okay, we'll get this to submission, and we'll see if it goes anywhere. I can't promise anything. You have to get accepted, of course. And there's a limited number, a limited percentile who get accepted, because publishers can only publish so many books a year. And he was giving me all the stats, and I just kept praying. I said, Lord, if this is your will, then you're going to make it happen. And if it's not going to happen right now, then I know you're going to take care of me. This is your will. And getting that acceptance letter in April was just amazing. Just knowing that the Lord was really encouraging me in this way, and that I was truly hearing his voice, and getting that published experience has just been such an amazing process. And it's not even done yet. I'm just so enjoying this process and learning so much of the book marketing process. But the book itself, it is a lot of the ceramics experience. And so I say you don't have to be a Christian to read the book, and you don't have to be an artist to read the book. I'll walk you through both as we go along. And basically, it's how I view my faith, my Christian faith, through the standpoint of ceramics and as a Christian. And so all of these verses that we're familiar with, Jeremiah 18, talking about the potter's house, different things like that in the Bible that are great stories, I interpret them from my pottery background and really try to bring a life that might not be seen from someone who doesn't have a pottery experience. And so saying, like, this is what this verse means if you're looking at it based on the knowledge that I have with ceramics, and trying to do that with different verses throughout the Old and New Testaments, and really just giving a new kind of insight to those areas from my standpoint as a Christian ceramic artist. So the chapters are organized like you would make a pot. So we talk about the very basics, from the clay, how you need a good foundation with the clay, different types of clays and how they do different things. We go into tools. We talk about throwing on the pottery wheel, of course. And then we finish up by talking about firing and glazing, and then firing again, because each piece actually has to go through the kiln, the firing twice, to bisque fire it and then glaze it, put that color on and that sheen, and then to fire it again a final time. And so I relate how each step of the potter with the clay is very similar to God as our potter, and we are the clay. And so how we as Christians, our lives are manipulated and things happen to us. For me, my scoliosis experience was something that I never thought would happen. And I didn't think it would turn out to be as amazing as it is, but it really is what led me to pottery. And so all of these experiences that God knew way beforehand, just like the potter knows what he or she is going to throw on the wheel way before the clay is even taken out of the bag. God already knew what my life was going to look like and how it was going to end up. And so really encouraging the reader through that as well. I provide different creativity challenges at the end of each chapter, and those are interactive with the reader. So as you're reading my story and my commentary on how I'm interpreting these verses in scripture from my pottery background, you're also able to interact yourself with any art medium you choose. I'm really encouraging the reader to be as creative as they want to be with any art medium, from singing to baking to writing poetry, dancing, anything you choose, to interact with the book and make it not just a passive experience, but to also grow your creativity and your relationship with God as well.
Absolutely. So talk about some of the challenges that you face as a small business owner.
Yeah, there are a lot. Probably the biggest one is that it's just me as a small business owner. I am running my small business. So everything from computer work to making the pots, getting them fired, transporting them, doing shows, selling. It's all handmade by me. So if you buy any of my pieces or have any of my pieces, I have had a hand in every part of that process. And so I do have a separate full-time job. So balancing schedules can get interesting, of course, as well. But it is so much fun, and it does take up way more of my free time than anyone else seems to understand. But I love it so much. It's such a great experience. And I've learned so much too. And that's really where the community studio comes into play. Because if it was just me and I couldn't bounce ideas off of people, that would be so much harder. But being in this community space where I'm able to talk to other potters who are doing the exact same thing, they're also running their small businesses, and getting feedback and advice and sharing stories about what works and what doesn't work. And even just being in another space with all these other creative artists. We're all ceramic artists in this space, and every pot looks different. Every style is different. You can tell people's distinct styles, and it is really amazing just to have that kind of community of fellow potters. And that's probably what I love the most about being in this area, is so much art influence and so much encouragement from other artists. It's just a really special space.
Well, another thing that you do is you serve with the youth in your church. So kind of talk about that and tell us why you love doing that so much.
Of course. So that kind of started when I finished. So I'll back up. So I mentioned that I was reading the Bible all the way through. And that took me about 3 years. I was going at my own pace. I wasn't following any kind of specific reading plan or anything. And I just wanted to read it at my pace and understand it for myself. And so when I finished that, it had taken me 3 years. And I really prayed, okay, Lord, what's next? And he gave me 3 next steps. And so one was to serve in my church, because I've always gone to church. I've been a Christian since I was about 7 years old, but I have never been an active server in the church. And so one was to really get connected with a church now that I've settled down, and get connected, but not only that, but to also serve. So not just going to a small group to be served, but to provide service for others. And so the second thing was to write the book. And then the third thing was to go to the Holy Land. I've never been, and I'm still working on that one. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years. But back to the first thing, serving in the church. My church offered a really unique class about finding your spiritual gifts. Because if I wanted to serve, and I did, I wanted it to be useful, but I wanted to enjoy it as well. And so I knew things about myself, that there's going to be certain areas that I'm not going to enjoy as much, or I'm going to be uncomfortable in this area trying to serve. For instance, like a door greeter, I'm more of an introvert. So the thoughts of greeting people every day was a little bit drastic in my mind, trying to get myself to that area. And I thought, God created all types of peoples. He created me with my personality. And so he knows where I'm going to serve best. And so I took this class that was the spiritual gifts class. And it's amazing just learning there's biblical spiritual gifts that are mentioned in the New Testament. And taking this class, it was a lot of personality type tests and what your interests are, and incorporating your past experiences with your personality. I was able to learn so much more about myself and so much more about how I would be useful in the church. So, for instance, what environment I would thrive in, what type of situation I would excel in. And I went to a mentor in my church and said, okay, these are the results I've got. I'm not sure where I would be useful, but I know what I'm looking for now. And she was really great about saying, just kind of giving me different options. And my top spiritual gift is knowledge. And so just learning about the Bible, which when I learned that, it completely made sense. Me wanting to read the Bible all the way through, me wanting to dig deeper into these ceramics, Bible verses and me taking it the step farther to write the book. And I know all of that was from God. And so, of course, he would give me the spiritual gift of knowledge to use to further his kingdom. And so seeing all of this, she really suggested to try serving with the youth. They call it youth culture, and seeing how I liked it. And so it's high schoolers and middle schoolers. And I started this past January of 2023. And it has been just such a great and unexpected experience for me. I don't know if I would have said, yes, this is the exact thing that I think I would be best at. But I love it. And I just know I'm supposed to be there. And it has been such a blessing to me. And I'm supposed to be the blessing to others, you know, and it's amazing how that's how Christianity works. You go in to serve and God blesses you through that. And so I'm helping with the 7th grade girls. I'm one of the 7th grade girl leaders. And it's just such a special time listening to them and being able to provide my own experience and talk with them about everything they're going through and going on retreats with them. It's just been such a joy and so much fun to be used and by God in that way and to feel useful. And every time I go, I just feel this peace from God that this is where I'm supposed to be and this is where I'm supposed to be serving. And not every week is, you know, the best, most special Hallmark movie week in the world. But every week I go, I have that peace of God saying, this is exactly where you're supposed to be. And until he tells me otherwise, I'll be there Sunday nights.
Absolutely. Tell us about any current or upcoming projects that you're working on that people need to know about.
Of course. So I've always got something going on in the studio. So right now I am just cranking out work for more shows. I love to just make functional pieces. So if you're not familiar with my work, it's all porcelain. It's all microwave and dishwasher safe. And I have 4 different wildflower designs that I incorporate into my pieces. And so I have wisteria, violet, thistle, and dogwood. And so these are wildflowers that I grew up with in the Carolinas. I always have loved wildflowers. I think they're just such a treat to see when you're driving down the road and just see these beautiful flowers. And so these are wildflowers that symbolize strength, especially feminine strength. Again, kind of drawing from my scoliosis experience. And being told as, you know, as a woman and someone with scoliosis, like, oh, you're fragile. And so flowers are usually thought of as fragile as well, but then recognizing that wildflowers are growing by themselves with no help from the gardeners. And so bringing that into my work just to give commentary on the beauty, the fragility, the inner strength. You know, thistles even have the defense mechanism of the thorns. And so incorporating all of that into my work, it's very old kind of style and antique kind of look to it. I've heard people compare it to their grandmother's china. I'm inspired by toile and Victorian culture aesthetics. And so it's blue and white china or black and white china type feel. So that's usually what I'm in the studio making. I do everything from cups to teapots. I've got some pumpkins going on right now. As of this recording, it is fall, so I'm making some pumpkins. And then I'm hoping to make some new things in the future, probably in January once the Christmas rush is slowed down. I'll be doing that. And then that's, of course, when the book comes out. God the Artist comes out in January, and you can pre-order now wherever books are sold. Again, the title is God the Artist. And the full title is God the Artist, Revealing God's Creative Side Through Pottery. And then after the book releases, more projects. I'm sure I'll be back in the studio. I've been making baskets recently with woven handles, so I'll be doing some of that. Who knows? Maybe I'll get to the Holy Land and write another book. That would be awesome. We'll just have to see and pray about it.
Well, so everybody can keep up with everything that you're up to, throw out your contact information, any websites you might have or anything like that.
Of course. I'll send you to my website, and from there you can connect with me. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can connect on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. You can shop my Etsy, and you can do all of this through the website. You can also buy the book on my website as well. And that is just my name, www.morganmccarver.com. And so you spell my name, Morgan MCCarv, as in violin, ER. So morganmccarver.com, and you can connect with me there. And I'd love to hear from you guys.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, morganmccarver.com. Close us out with some final thoughts. Maybe if there was something I forgot to talk about that you would like to touch on, or just any final thoughts you have for the listeners.
Of course. And let me just say thank you so much again for having me. This has just been such a great experience. But probably my closing thoughts would be back to the themes of the book, and really just encouraging you as a human being, that every human being is creative, because we were created by God, and God is a creator. That's the first verb that's used in scripture. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And so he is a creator God, and he creates beautiful things. And he created us in his image. And because he did that, that means we are also creative. And you might not feel creative right now. You might say, you should see my stick figure drawings or whatever. I've heard so many comments. But you are so precious to God, and you're so unique and so talented in so many ways. And it's not in ways that other people are talented. So I just encourage you to tap into your own creativity and to find that way to honor God through your own talents.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, morganmccarver.com. Please be sure to check out her work and pick up her book when it comes out in January. Please be sure to follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. If you have any guest or suggestion topics, cjackson102@cox.net is the place to send them. As always, thank you for listening. And Morgan, thank you for coming on and sharing your amazing story with my listeners.
Thank you so much. I love your podcast, and it's been great talking to you.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.